Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to all of you in Network Professionals, the Cisco Networking Academy, and I am your instructor, Ahmed Malik.
Today we are going to start our second module. In our last lecture we discuss about recent network trends, bring your own device, BYOD, online collaboration, smart home technology, powerline networking, network security threats and solutions. Our today's topics are Cisco iOS access methods, role of operating system, kernel, shell, hardware, CLI and GUI interfaces, purpose of operating system, console, telnet, and SSH. So let's get started without any further delay. Welcome to Basic Switch and End Device Configuration. As part of your career in networking, you might have to set up a new network or maintain and upgrade an existing one. In either case, you'll configure switches and end devices so that they are secure and perform effectively based on your requirements. Out of the box, switches and end devices come with some general configuration. But for your particular network, switches and end devices require your specific information and instructions. In this module, you will learn how to access Cisco iOS network devices. You will learn basic configuration commands and use them to configure and verify a Cisco iOS device and an end device with an IP address. Of course, there is much more to network administration, but none of that can happen without first configuring switches and end devices. Let's get started. All end devices and network devices require an operating system, OS. As shown in the figure, the portion of the OS that interacts directly with computer hardware is known as the kernel. The portion that interfaces with applications and the user is known as the shell. The user can interact with the shell using a command line interface, CLI, or a graphical user interface, GUI. There are three concentric circles that appear to radiate from the monitor of a computer labeled user interface. They show the relationship between the different portions of an operating system. The inner circle labeled hardware shows examples of computer hardware, the middle circle is labeled kernel, and the outer circle is labeled shell. Text at the bottom reads, Shell, the user interface that allows users to request specific tasks from the computer. These requests can be made either through the CLI or GUI interfaces. Kernel communicates between the hardware and software of a computer and manages how hardware resources are used to meet software requirements. Hardware, the physical part of a computer including underlying electronics. Shell, the shell is the user interface that allows users to request specific tasks from the computer. When using a CLI, the user interacts directly with the system in a text-based environment by entering commands on the keyboard at a command prompt. The system executes the command and often provides textual output. Operating the CLI requires very little overhead. However, it does require that the user have knowledge of the underlying command structure that controls the system. A GUI such as Windows, Mac OS, Linux KDE, Apple iOS, or Android allows a user to interact with a system using an environment of graphical icons, menus, and windows. Compared to a CLI, the Windows 10 GUI, as shown in figure, is more user-friendly and requires less knowledge of the underlying command structure that controls the system. For this reason, most users rely on GUI environments. However, GUIs may not always be able to provide all the features available with the CLI. GUIs can also fail, crash, or simply not operate as specified. For these reasons, network devices are typically accessed through a CLI. The CLI is less resource-intensive and very stable compared to a GUI. The family of network operating systems used on many Cisco devices is called Cisco Internetwork Operating System, iOS. Cisco iOS is used on many Cisco routers and switches, regardless of the type or size of the device. Each device type, for example, router or switch, uses a different version of Cisco iOS. Other Cisco operating systems include iOS XE, iOS XR, and NXOS. Purpose of an OS. Network operating systems are similar to PC operating systems. Through a GUI, a PC operating system enables a user to do the following. Use a mouse to make selections and run programs. Enter text and text-based commands. View output on a monitor. A CLI-based network operating system, such as Cisco IOS on a switch or router, enables a network technician to do the following. Use a keyboard to run CLI-based network programs. Use a keyboard to enter text and text-based commands. View output on a monitor. Cisco networking devices run particular versions of Cisco IOS. The iOS version depends on the type of device being used and the required features. While every device comes with a default iOS and feature set, it is possible to upgrade the iOS version or feature set to obtain additional capabilities. Access methods. A switch forwards traffic by default and does not need to be explicitly configured to operate. For example, two configured hosts connected to the same new switch would be able to communicate. Regardless of the default behavior of a new switch, all switches should be configured and secured. 3 access methods for configuring and securing a switch are: console, SSH, telnet. Console access. This is a physical management port that provides out-of-band access to a Cisco device. Out-of-band access refers to access through a dedicated management channel that is used for device maintenance purposes only. The advantage of using a console port is that the device is accessible even if no networking services are configured, such as when performing the initial configuration. A console connection requires a computer running terminal emulation software and a special console cable to connect to the device. SSH access. SSH is an in-band and recommended method for remotely establishing a secure CLI connection through a virtual interface over a network. Unlike a console connection, an SSH connection requires active networking services on the device, including an active interface configured with an address. Most versions of Cisco IOS include an SSH server and an SSH client that can be used to establish SSH sessions with other devices. Telnet access. Telnet is an insecure, in-band method of remotely establishing a CLI session through a virtual interface over a network. Unlike SSH, Telnet does not provide a secure, encrypted connection, and it should be used only in a lab environment. User authentication, passwords, and commands are sent over the network in plain text. The best practice is to use SSH instead of Telnet. Cisco IOS includes both a Telnet server and a Telnet client. Note, some devices, such as routers, may also support a legacy auxiliary port that was used to establish a CLI session remotely over a telephone connection using a modem. Similar to a console connection, the AUX port is out of band and does not require networking services to be configured or available. Terminal emulation programs. There are several terminal emulation programs you can use to connect to a networking device either with a serial connection over a console port or with an SSH/Telnet connection. These programs allow you to enhance your productivity by adjusting window sizes, changing font sizes, and changing color schemes. Some most common terminal software are PuTTY, TerraTerm, Secure CRT.
That's enough for today, and stay connected for all upcoming videos. Thank you very much.